In this video, I'll be sharing with you a requested tutorial on how to cut this stylish overbust Victorian corset. So if this is something you like, kindly hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So to start, here is my pattern paper, which I've gone ahead to mark out my basic measurement. And before marking out my measurement, I went ahead to leave few inches above my shoulder line. But first, I'm going to mark out my shoulder to bust, under bust, waist, and blouse length. So now, this little dot I have here, that is where my actual measurement started, which includes my shoulder to bust, under bust, waist, and I added 5 inches. So this 5 inches, I'm using it for the basque of this dress. Or if you want to make this corset pattern an inbuilt Victorian corset, you can also do that. Now I'll mark my shoulder line. So remember, all my measurement is starting from this line, which is my shoulder to bust, under bust, waistline. Now you will leave few inches on top because of this pattern exceeds the shoulder line. Next, you mark your shoulder divided by 2 and you come down by 1 inch on this point. From here, I'm going to go ahead to connect this all the way to the shoulder slant of my pattern. And after I'm done connecting this, what I'm going to do now is to go ahead to find my chest line, which is my bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. On that line, I will draw out a straight line. Now, what I have on my shoulder, which is my shoulder divided by 2, I'll mark it here. Now I'll go ahead to connect this starting from here to this point. After this, I'll divide what I have here into 2 and I will mark. Now I'm going to go ahead to come out by ½ inch. Here I will mark my bust circumference divided by 4. That is round my bust, which is 33 divided by 4. I have 8.3. From that point, I'll connect to that ½ inch and I'll be taking this all the way up to the upper part of my pattern. So next, I'm going to go ahead to mark my dart. So to mark your dart, you need your nipple to nipple divided by 2. Although after marking this, I went ahead to change the style line of my pattern. Now I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler and I'm going to go ahead to connect this all the way from the bust to the under bust to the waist and down to my pattern length. So I'll mark my dart intake of 1 inch on both sides. So if your bust is a bit big or you're on the big size or busty, use 1.5 inches. Here I'll start coming in by 2 inches. This is because I want to change the style line of this pattern. Now I'll go ahead to connect. So next, I will be taking my dart of 1 inch on both sides. So let's say you're a plus size, you can use 1.5. I'll go ahead to connect this here. And after that, I'll come in by 1 inch, place my ruler and I'll connect. So after marking that, from that new style line I have here, I'll mark the same dart intake on this side and then connect it to the under bust of my pattern. After I'm done connecting, this is what I have, and I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline this. So from this part, what I'm going to do is to go ahead to connect from the bust down to the under bust of my pattern, and I'll also repeat this at the other side of my pattern this way. After I'm done connecting, I'm going to go ahead to mark my basic neckline of 3 inches. I'm using this to serve as a guide. After this, I'm going to go ahead to divide what I have remaining on the shoulder into 2. Now I'll place my ruler and I'll connect it from that point to the upper part. After I'm done connecting, the next step I'll take is just to use a shoulder dart. I'll be making use of 1 inch and I'll go ahead to connect. So after I'm done connecting on this point, the next step I'll take also is to insert my measurement. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Pick the dart I have here towards the bust and over bust and mark, and then add my sewing allowance. If you want to make it in form of an inbuilt pattern, add ½ inch to your pattern. Now mark your under bust circumference divided by 4. Measure the dart intake and replace. Mark your waist circumference divided by 4. Measure the dart intake, replace, and add your sewing allowance. Now on this part, mark your hip circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace and add your sewing allowance to it. Now I'm going to place my tape and I'm going to connect this starting from the upper part to the lower part of my pattern. Now after I'm done connecting, this is what I have. Now I'll just come up by 1.5 to 2 inches at this point, and I'm going to go ahead to connect this all the way up. After I'm done connecting, the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to add another style line because I want to snatch my waistline. But before doing that, I'll mark my bust dart. To get your bust dart is the difference between your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back. My shoulder to waist in front is 17, while at the back is 15.5. So that means my bust dart is 1.5 inches, because if you take out 15.5 from 17, you will have 1.5. Now I'll add a style line. This is a Victorian corset and most times it has multiple style line. So now we want to snatch out our waistline. My waist is 28 and I want to take out 4 inches from it. Now to do that 4 inches I want to take out, I will divide it by 4. If you divide that 4 inches by 4, it will give you 1 inch. So why we are dividing that pattern into 4 is because we normally when drafting your pattern, you divide your measurements into 4. That means we are taking out 1 inch on each side of our waistline, from the waistline of the front right side, from the waistline of the left right side. Now repeat it on both sides of your pattern. By the time you take out 1 inch on both sides, that means you have taken out 4 inches all around your pattern. So I'll mark ½ inch on both sides. That ½ inch plus ½ inch will give me 1 inch, which we have as our dart. And after that, I'm just going to go ahead to connect it all the way up on both sides. And I'll also go ahead to extend this all the way down, but whatever that you mark at the lower part should not exceed more than 4 inches after your waistline. Now I'll just go ahead and place my marker and I'm going to connect this and also connect at the other side of my pattern. So this is what I have here, and I'll use my marker to outline the rest of my pattern and then blend in my darts. Also on the bust line, you notice that my pattern is gaping there, so I'll just go ahead to replace it. So what I will do now is all these darts and lines that I have on this pattern, I'll go ahead to use my tracing wheel to also trace it out, and after tracing it out, I'll go ahead to draft it out on the other side. So if you don't have a tracing wheel, you can get something that has like a sharp edge and trace this all out and then repeat this pattern at the other side. So why I'm using a tracing wheel is because you want to have exactly what is on this side on the other part of your pattern. So next, I'm going to go ahead to replace this that I have here because I'll blend it out. I'll mark it on this side and I'll go ahead to place my curved drew and connect it back. Now I'll also repeat this same thing at this other side, and after that I'll also reconnect it back. Now after connecting this, you want to go ahead and add an extension at the upper part of your pattern also to give you that built up or high neckline Victorian corset on top. Now you can use whatever you want to use on that part. Just go ahead and take a measurement that is okay for you. So for this pattern I used about 2.5. So I did not really take any measurement from the shoulder to where it will stop. I'm just using 2.5. So let's say you're making this for your client, you have to go ahead and measure and find out where is okay for that person. So after marking that 2.5, if you notice, I'm blending out the armhole area. You don't want to have something too pointy. Here I'll also mark that same 2.5 and I'll connect. So this 2.5 is not a standard. Measure from the shoulder to the upper part of the neckline or towards the head to know where exactly your client wants it to be. So I'll extend this dart and then measure 1 inch and replace it. Go ahead, extend this, measure that same 1 inch and replace it. Why am I doing this? This is because I'm going to go ahead to blend this out. So if you don't blend it out, that means the upper part or the built up neckline will have like some sort of excess at this point. So I'm just going to mark this out and I'll pleat it out. So this is the center, this is the middle front, this is the side front. So I'll also repeat this on this other side of my pattern. Now if you notice, this pattern does not really have a basque, which I'll still go ahead to create a basque for it. So if you want to make it as an inbuilt corset pattern, you can use this. So now I'll just go ahead and connect, blend out my darts, and I will connect. So while connecting at the waistline, I'll go in by my sewing allowance. This is to enable the waistline of the front and the back to meet each other. So after I'm done doing this, I'm just going to go ahead to cut this out. So if you have any question regarding this pattern drafting, please go ahead and leave your question at the comment section. Now at the area towards the side darts, also go ahead to blend this out. Now I'll cut this off, and when cutting it off, if you notice at the part I have the dart, I went up a bit. This is to enable me when I'm blending out the dart at the upper part. So I'll now go ahead to blend out my dart and pin it back again, because I just blended it out when I was cutting it out. So after this, we'll go back to cutting out this pattern. Now I'll go ahead to blend this. So this is why I left that excess when I was cutting it at the dart areas, because when I cut out this part, I will have to like blend out that part to have like a slopey effect there. You see what I'm talking about? One side is higher, so I'll just go ahead to blend this out and I'll cut it out. So after this, I'll also go ahead to repeat the same thing at the other side of my pattern, and I'm going to cut it out. Also here, I'm going to blend it out and I'm going to go ahead to cut it out also, just like I did for the other side. So after cutting this out, I'll now go ahead to cut out the rest of my pattern. So you also notice that there is a slit on this pattern at the center, so I'll be doing that later. So now I pinned this up to show you that folded effect we have at the upper part. So let's just say we are done joining our outfit. So what you do is, after you're done, you're just going to sew and fold it over. So for this dress, all the structure will be going on the lining piece of these Victorian corsets. That is where all the structure will be. So you can go ahead to add stay to your double stay and then iron it to your main fabric join, but most of your structures will be on the lining, and you'll be using an invisible boning method for this also. So after cutting out, this is what I have. So for the center, you know, there's a joining. I'll just slit it into two this way. So this is what I have. Now moving over to the back pattern, I've gone ahead to cut out all my basic measurements. So for this back pattern, this is my shoulder to bust and this is my shoulder to waist. My shoulder to waist is 15.5. Remember, like I said, for the back. Now I'm going to go ahead to find my nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5 inches, which I'll go ahead to mark at this point. Now I'll go ahead to draw out a straight line. So now I'm going to go ahead to mark 1/2 inch on both sides of my waistline, extend this all the way up, and after I'm done extending, the next step I'm going to take is to insert my body measurement. I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 here, and I'll add my sewing allowance. Here I'm going to mark my waist circumference divided by 4 here. I'll be adding the dart intake at once and then go ahead to add 1/2 inch. That is my waist measurement divided by 4 is 7 inches plus 1 will give me 8 plus the extra sewing allowance. Now I'll go ahead to connect my pattern. After connecting this is what I have for the back, and I'll outline the chest line area. Now after I'm done marking that, I'll come down by 1/2 inch and I will connect. This is so that the lacing area will not be popping up. Now I'll add an additional style line to snatch out the waistline. So what I'm going to do here is to mark that same ½ inch on both sides, giving us 1 inch. So I have already explained how to get this. Now I'll go ahead to connect this all the way up. After I'm done connecting, I'm going to mark my lacing area. So for my lacing area, I'm using about 1.5 inches. This totally depends on what you want to use. Now I'll go ahead to connect, and I'll just draw out this dot to indicate that I have a lacing here. After this, I'm just going to go ahead to cut this out. So if you have any question regarding
Please go
this
ahead to
pattern,
leave
leave your question at the comment section. Give this video a thumbs up, and if you haven't yet subscribed, please go ahead to hit on the subscribe button. After cutting out, this is what I have.